What if the biggest problem in our world isn't politics, ideology, or even morality, but our complete inability to actually hear one another? What if the people we've labeled as the enemy aren't broken, evil, or beyond repair, but misunderstood in ways that are quietly tearing our society apart? Today's conversation will challenge how you think about conflict, empathy, and the stories we tell ourselves about those people. And it just might change how you listen and seek to truly understand others. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan. I'm Dan Peters, psychologist and leadership coach. This show is all about bringing hope, connection, awareness, and wisdom through meaningful conversations that inspire us to be better versions of ourselves and have a positive impact on humanity. This is your space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with who you are, what you care about, and who you want to be. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. Today's show is completely aligned with having a positive impact on humanity. Today, I'm speaking with Larry Rosen. Larry is the creator and host of The Enemies Project, a socially transformative docuseries where two political enemies sit long enough to discover common humanity. In its first 5 months, The Enemies Project has been watched tens of millions of times across platforms. As the founder of the mediation law practice Through Understanding, Larry has helped thousands craft solutions to conflicts one thought unsolvable. Millions have watched his TEDx talk, The Secret to Understanding Humans. A top 10 graduate of UCLA Law School, Larry's career has centered on a single purpose: helping people understand their enemies so both sides can win. Larry, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be here.
So Larry, let's start where your professional career started. So let's go to law. What led you to law?
To law.
Yeah, remember you used to go to law school and be a practicing attorney for a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's
I would guess, like a lot of other people who went to law school, what was that law show in the 1980s?
LA Law?
LA Law,
Yeah.
probably. And
Yeah.
that I didn't know what I wanted to do. But ultimately, I went to law school, and didn't really resonate for me. I loved school, and so I dedicated myself in law school and did pretty well. But when I got out, I was just like, I want to do something meaningful, and it wasn't meaningful. So I left the practice of law and eventually came back and did mediation. And that was much more meaningful to me. Mediation, you don't have to be a lawyer to do it. Generally, people are lawyers who do it, but that was much more meaningful because I got to deal with people at a big time in their lives.
What if we roll that back? What was that about you or some prior experiences that you had where that connection, wanting to find resolution, was something that drove you personally?
I would say that I'm a person who often has fantasies that other people don't matter to me, and that particularly when I was younger, that I'm just going to be successful, and I don't really care what I'm doing. I'm just going to make a whole lot of money. And whenever I'd go those routes, it was just kind of empty. Like as soon as I'd start to make some money, I'd be like, okay, like my life's not better right now. So it was really like I'm a person who at a certain point really wanted meaning in my life, whatever that means. For different people, it means different things. But for me, I think it meant improving the world in some way.
And it wasn't.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And I wasn't doing that when I was in the law. And I think there are a million ways to do that. But I searched for a way. I started a company, raised some venture capital money. That was quite meaningful to me. It was super fun, and we were doing things that were really, in my impression, really important. But when it didn't succeed, and I had to go back to the practice of law, and I was like, that sounds for me really bad. I'm only going to do it if I can do it in a way that helps people.
So I don't sense an aversion to money for money's sake. It's just that money as the driver is not enough. The endeavor has to be meaningful.
Yeah. And I don't want to be in poverty either. Like for me,
Yeah,
there's some balance.
right.
And actually mediation was a great balance. I mean, I don't want to talk about money really, but it paid me a reasonable amount, and it was quite meaningful, and is
Yeah,
quite meaningful.
yeah. And I think that's the bind when it comes to meaning and living in the society that we do. Is we often have to grapple with the first of all the necessity of money, and then the value of money, both the actual value and what that value is to us, and then how we're gonna what we're gonna do every day, like how we're gonna show up every day. And I've worked with lots of people. I know you've worked with lots of people. You've been one of those people. I've been one of those people where it's like there are situations where you're like, you can't pay me any amount of money for me to do this or for me to keep doing this, right? Where it comes down to like at a core level, and maybe that's like a soul level, that you can't keep doing it if it doesn't speak to
Yeah, and for me, that threshold is pretty low.
you.
It's I don't have the endurance module. I don't know what it is that that other people do. You know, I can put it in there for a while, for a short time, but no, it like there are some things in my profession now that are really lucrative. I won't do them
Hmm.
if I'm not interested. It
Yeah,
just, and I could, it's not like I don't need the money. I need to make a living,
right.
but it's just doesn't get me going.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's an example of when we talk about living from a values and from integrity. And I do think whatever you said, the module, whatever that thing is, I do think some people do have bigger versions of that or larger versions of that. I know that I don't either, and sometimes I wish I did. Um, but
I should
yeah,
say though that I think business is super fun, and that doesn't mean I wouldn't be fine running a business, right? Like that could be fun, but the law was doing something for somebody else that was not meaningful.
hmm,
It just was in many ways didn't work for me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't mean to, like suggest that other paths wouldn't have been okay, but that combination. And when I find myself just doing something for money, no good. There's
right,
a big entrepreneurial aspect to what I'm doing now, which is the creation of the Enemies Project. And I love that. So there's a big part of what I'm doing now, which is quite entrepreneurial. And I love that, running the Enemies Project. But that is so that's fun, but if I can get the combination of doing something for the world
yeah,
and exercising my creativity, wow, then it's all cylinders.
win-win.
Yeah.
As we're going to work our way to the enemies project, you at some point, like you really became invested. I know it was your job as mediator, but like invested in understanding humans, like understanding how humans work, and really diving in to the complexity in really difficult situations, right? Like if you could figure out how humans function, what humans motivations are, what humans needs are, you can get to a whole nother level of resolution. And I'm wondering, as you were going on your mediator journey, like did you just go right into that seeking, or were there experiences along the way that you're like, wait a second, I'm observing some stuff, I'm seeing some stuff's working, some stuff is not working, and I just need to understand more.
So when I was considering being a mediator, a friend of mine said, "Why don't you consider being a mediator? You're into like that spiritual stuff." And I was like, "That sounds so boring to me. I don't want to help people resolve their conflicts. Like, oh my gosh, and divorce conflicts. Like, who would want to be involved in such a thing?" And other personal conflicts. And I went, but he was like, "I think it's going to work for you." And I went to some mediator trainings, and I didn't like them because they did not ground it in a philosophy of psychology that I could understand. Like in mediation, understanding someone's motivation is critical. I'm sure you know that, and it's like if you're going to help somebody in psychology, You want to know why they want what they want so you can
Mhm.
help them get there. What are you really searching for? And that's true in mediation as well, to help people find a resolution. And there was no real underlying in the trainings that I went to philosophy of human motivation. So it was kind of like, yeah, just go deeper. They'd say, go deeper, go deeper. And I was like, go deeper where? And they would often end up at like a person wants money. I'm like, that's not a motivation. A person wants money. So I knew that there was something wrong with these. And I was really bored, actually. And I was like, this isn't for me. And a guy, when I was in one of these trainings, said, you should check out nonviolent communication. That's pretty cool. Like, just I've been involved in it, and he didn't say as a solution to this issue of having a philosophy of motivation. I went to the nonviolent communication training for it was 11 days, and it changed my life. I was like, this is something that I've been thinking about my whole life, but could not put words to. Like, this guy who created this system of people talking to each other, Marshall Rosenberg, had this idea, which didn't come from him. It also came from some psychologists in the 1950s and 60s, Carl Rogers, that human beings have these common motivations. Why we do the things we do is common. Like, we all have the same motivations. What we do is different. They didn't put it in those terms. I eventually came up with that. Like, that's what he's saying. He came up with a system for people to communicate. But in order for people to do that, he had to, the way I see it is, he was a bridge builder. In order to build bridges, design bridges, he had to create math, understand the math of the mind. That's the way I saw it. Like, wow. People just think that this nonviolent communication thing is a way of communicating, but it's actually the math of the mind. We are always trying to fulfill these basic human needs. And there are a million ways to do it. And we're triggered in different ways. We're taught different ways to do it. I started to think of it in terms of a system that really made sense to me. And I went to this training and I was like, holy cow, that was amazing. I didn't really understand why I thought it was amazing. It just was like, this is fantastic. I'm loving this. And I decided to put it to use in the law. I didn't know that anyone else had, and I don't think anyone else had. And it took me a long time to figure out how to integrate that with the practice of law. But when I put out my shingle, like right away, I did it right away, and I didn't really have training in mediation. People were attracted to it. They were like, yeah, I want to resolve the real issues.
Hmm.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Like, I'd like to do that. No one else was really advertising that, or not many
Right.
people. And so people came to me, even though I didn't really know what I was doing very much. And over the years, I have a very systematized, like I'm an engineer at heart, I think. And I wanted to understand exactly how this worked, how the mind worked. And so this was a great match for me. And I took the nonviolent communication, I think, to a level, at least the philosophical or the theoretical part, to a level that it hadn't been. Really started to try to understand neuroscience and what was happening in the brain and all these other things that weren't really helpful for the people who I was helping. But for me, it answered the question of, why does this work and what's really going on? And I spent decades really trying to understand that on my own.
I imagine there are clients that really like this, and there are other people that aren't interested. It's a dispute. I mean, going back to the motivation, I think drawing on my work as couples therapy over the years.
Yeah.
It's different people have different motivations for even the engagement. So I'm wondering, did you go through a period where, I mean, over time, I am guessing that a certain kind of client would just come to you because they would know about the work that you did because of your reputation and other people, word of mouth. But are there times that you were like, well, you know what, this isn't going to work for you? Like,
Almost never.
really?
And it's interesting because
Huh.
right away, I was really turned off by the NVC, nonviolent communication talk, the speak, the language that they used. It was so awkward. I didn't tell my clients what I was doing. I just distilled what their motivations were and tried to help the other person hear it. So I never really bored my clients. I tried a few times, this is what I'm doing, but they just weren't interested. I mean, they weren't there for healing. They were there to resolve an issue, but they loved being understood. So, and almost everybody, it's almost impossible to find somebody who doesn't want to be understood. even if they don't want to go deep with you in that moment, they don't want to be vulnerable. You can find out, well, yeah, what's being yeah, I wouldn't want to be vulnerable. What you're saying is it's not, doesn't feel safe. Like this person's going to make fun of you, whatever it is. You could always find out what was going on for them, and that would be
Yeah.
if you can talk in their language, not use the word vulnerable. But like, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you what's going on for me. You're just gonna use it for your own advantage. That's what someone might say, and I would just kind of try to get that in their language. So it's almost never in the thousands of people that I've helped that they rejected being understood.
Mm.
They always liked it.
Right. Right. Well, and I attribute to your
It's not to say that my mediation worked with everybody, by the way. I don't
Yeah.
want to make that claim. It's
Right.
just that they like that aspect of it.
Well, and they felt heard, and then they felt
Yeah.
listened to, which of course is a primary, a central theme in the Enemies Project. So the Enemies Project, it's been watched. You've not been around a long time. You have a limited amount of episodes, and it's been viewed millions upon millions upon millions of times. So it's striking a chord, and for very good reason. What was the inception of the project? Getting two enemies across from each other and having a day-long conversation to get them to some sort of resolution or understanding of the other.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the reason that I'm doing it. The point at which I thought about it is a little bit less clear to me. But the reason I'm doing it is probably the same reason that a lot of people do what they're doing in their life when money isn't the focus as much. They want to care for their kids. Like they want to love the next generation. And that is absolutely true for me. I feel like, my generation, of which I am a part, is leaving the world in a much worse condition than we found it. Much worse. And I mean mostly not just like environmental degradation or other stuff that's tangible. It's in our inability to resolve problems together. Like nothing gets solved. Nothing gets solved if we can't cooperate. You take whatever is important to you. I don't care what it is. The environment, mass migration, poverty, transgender rights, or you don't want transgender people in certain areas. Whatever you think is important, none of it's going to get solved. Not a single thing as long as we're fighting with each other. Issue zero is cooperation. And that kills me because our society is becoming much, much less cooperative, particularly with social media driving enemy images. And and so I just feel terrible. And it scares me for my kids and for your kids. And that's the motivation for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that I want a world that works for our children. Where the idea came from specifically to do this around politics, I wrote a book, and I won't go into it. It's probably going to be published this coming year, but it's my idea was because I had been trying to communicate this message of mine about what motivates human beings. We can get along in different forms that people weren't that interested in. I wrote a bunch of articles, and it'd get like 500 views or 30 views or 1,000 views, but whatever it wasn't having much impact. And it occurred to me at a certain point that the only way to educate people is to entertain people. Like, not the only way, but most people aren't interested in education for its own sake. Like, they left school a long time ago, and they only liked those classes where the professor was telling stories anyway. And so I started to experiment with different ways of communicating through story. I did this TEDx talk thinking, I'll get well known. And a lot of people watch that, millions of people,
Yeah.
but but I didn't really tell story. I talked about the idea. And if I watch it, I'm kind of bored actually when I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Fast forward, fast forward. And I realized at a certain point that I'm competing against storytelling. And I need to be able to communicate what I want to communicate about peace and understanding people and how to understand them, and about politics through story. I wrote a novel, and that's the book, because I wanted to be in storytelling. It's not yet published, but it is about making peace in a society that is riven by tribalism about 1,000 years ago,
Hmm.
in a mythical land called the Himbala, where people are all at war. But that was the same effort as this effort.
Hmm.
Because what I'm doing now is really taking people on a narrative journey. And it's not a constructed journey, it's a real journey. Like, these people hate each other. They consider the other person to be the enemy. They consider the other person to be doing real damage to society. And that we'd be better off in society if we just not necessarily killed those people, but shut them out.
Right.
And I take them through a journey where they understand each other deeply and they see that they were mistaken about each other. And I hoped that this would be entertaining, because otherwise people wouldn't watch it. And what I found was it was entertaining. Like, there were different ways I could tweak it and I could learn and I could hone my message and deliver the education more succinctly or more powerfully, because that's my objective, is to have an impact and really affect people's minds. But it worked.
Yeah.
And people really found it to be engaging and what they wanted. They were sick of the hatred, and
Yeah.
they found it really encouraging.
It is entertaining and engaging. I mean, I'd say like engaging and entertaining. I mean, it's an intricate combination. You're not doing something just for entertainment. You're doing something to make an impact, and that's where I think the engagement comes in. If we just go to the last one, which I had emailed you about, um, we have a white retired cop, and a black protester. Right, the title: White Cop and Black Protester, Kevin and Afeni. What you do so well, which is in some respects, I know, not hard to do, is the first segment of all of these is you get people to argue their sides the same way that we all argue our sides when we're just like, this is my side. There's my information. Here's my data. Here's what's wrong with yours. And it's just back and forth and back and forth. And it just locks people in to the usual argument, the usual polarization. Seeing how you take them through the journey of what it actually means to listen, what it feels like to be heard, um, to switch. We'll talk about, the switch, the me being you, the identity confusion. It's like you see the transformation happen
Yeah.
right in front of you. Where if people were taking bets at the beginning, they're like, no way. Like, there's no way that these two people, particularly these two people that we're talking about, would be hugging at the end, would be like legitimately considering a friendship of an authentic friendship based on experience of how many hours did they spend with you in that room?
7, 8,
Yeah.
actually 10 hours, but 7 or 8 filming.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it's really powerful, and I want to just set this up for everyone, and then I'd like you just to tell a little bit commentary about that experience, because we get to see an hour of it, um, which is, so you have two people who are very different in their races, very different in which side of the fence they are when it comes to law and protest. Two people who we learn both were sexually assaulted, both are in recovery from substance abuse. Both care deeply about the people that they love. And completely on the other side of what law enforcement is and what protesters are. And we see them move, and you see their faces, which you capture. I mean, it's that empathy that you capture, that those pictures tell 1,000 words. And we'll, in a bit, we'll talk about the one that was right before, which was a little different, right? And what is it when you like in that situation? What were you seeing with Kevin and Afeni as you were working with them?
Well, people say when they see me at the beginning and these people are arguing, they're fighting. Two things I want to say. Firstly, what's not clear is that I encourage them to argue in the beginning, because I want to demonstrate what doesn't work, what we're doing in society. And sometimes the comments really knock these people for arguing.
Mm.
And that kills me because I encouraged it. Having said that, they're doing what they usually do, which is argue
Right.
and yell at each other. So I want to defend them in that way and take responsibility for it. But when I'm watching them argue, and people say, "Look how calm Larry is," in some of the comments. Look at that. He's so calm. It's just because I know what's going to happen. I wouldn't be calm if I hadn't seen this so many times. I know that if you have people understand each other, like you bring them through a process where they're going to deeply understand each other, their defenses are going to be completely down. Like when we're arguing, we cannot consider anything the other person says because we are on defense. That is what is happening in our neurological system. Like we are all wound up and we are on defense in every way we can. I know that I can bring them out of that state to be curious and that's going to completely shift them. So for me, it's like I'm kind of relishing in it because I know that the more I believe, it's not always the case, but the more I get them to argue, the more profound it's going to feel to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, observing you in the last few episodes, and I had watched more prior, there is this sense of like it is a sense of calm. It's like the conductor. You're conducting, like, you've done this a lot. You have studied and experienced human nature and human nature in conflict a lot. And this is a whole symphony that you are taking them through. And again, you can't control the outcome, as you have said and as you have seen, but you understand how this thing works and the different stages of what you are going to take them through to be heard, to learn how to listen. And oh man, like for Kevin, the struggle to listen. And I mean, he's like, oh, I need help, right? Like, and I know I'm sure there was way more. Like for him to really listen and
Yeah,
reflect back what
I
he
cut
heard.
out like eight iterations of that.
I bet. Um, it's hard. What a valuable life skill to, for the first time, be able to do something that he has literally never done before.
I wouldn't say that, in his defense,
Okay.
because he is a really big-hearted guy.
Yes.
He has a skill problem, which is when he is trying to listen, he goes into his thoughts about the other person. He thinks that that's listening.
Hmm.
Like, like I'm going to share now openly what I think. So it's really a skill problem. But I want to, like, a lot of people have said that. And I just want to defend this guy because he is such a beautiful guy at the core
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
And it's really just, so you're right, he hadn't really been exposed to what it's like to listen with a person without judgment, without response. That's in therapy, obviously, is so critical, both from the therapist, but probably even more importantly, from the person if you're in couples counseling or something like that, being able to really hear them without judgment. He had never been through a process like that before. So for him, it was radical. And he had no idea. He just basically said, I don't know how to do this. I have no idea. And I kept trying to instruct him. So that was pretty neat to see. But
Mhm.
what's even more incredible to see, because there are lots of people I bring through this process and they know how to do it.
Mm.
They've done that before in therapy or whatever it is. They don't do it, even though they know how. So I'm not teaching them necessarily how. I'm showing them that if you do that right now, you're going to get an entirely different response. And
Mhm.
it's going to fundamentally shift your relationship and the outcome here.
Your methods, um, which you are transparent about your methods, the questions are right there on the screen, in advance for people to see. And after the argument, they're designed for each enemy to experience the other differently, right? The commonalities of humanity. What's the worst thing that ever happened to you? I'm paraphrasing. What's the most beautiful thing that has ever happened to you? What do you care about the most? And like right then, you start to see we're not talking about guns like the other one. We're not talking about law enforcement or protesting. we're just talking about human beings, and you you can almost see them trying not to fall for it, like trying not to, like, oh shit, I'm feeling like some connection with the other person, but wait, they're the enemy, right? Like it's like it's this transition of, whoa, like seeing it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty, it struck me a little bit by surprise when I did the first few episodes, how consistent it was that people had the same basic stuff that was important to them. Like I always had this thought, from nonviolent communication and my own study of it, that we have the same basic needs. But that doesn't give you a hierarchy of what's most important. And Maslow's hierarchy is not. He never really claimed it was a hierarchy, and it doesn't mean that it's correct for all people. So it's like, but I've seen in all of these that most people have the same best experiences and the same worst experiences. And like the best experiences are when they're accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they found community, they found love, they found happiness. It's some kind of like deep, like, you are so safe with me. And the worst experience is that being broken open and they are all alone in whatever form, right? So you can take a trans woman and a woman who hates trans people, literally hates, says you guys belong in mental institutions, and you're a genetically modified man, and you can see that their profound best experience is when they were connected with their family or accepted by people when they weren't accepted in their life, and their worst experience is being rejected. Both of them, and then they can see this, like,
Mm-hmm.
they still are really different on this one issue, but they can see this. I didn't realize every single time it was going to be the same. And it doesn't mean, like, a lot of times people who haven't yet had kids, it's not as much, the beautiful piece isn't as much about community. It
Mm-hmm.
might be something where they're feeling really alive in some other way.
Right.
It might be that they see something beautiful in the world, or they're
Mm-hmm.
using their body in a particular way,
Mm-hmm.
or they have meaning in their work in a way that. But for people who are maybe have had kids or who've gone through certain levels of rejection in life, into their 20s,
Mm-hmm.
it all becomes the same. And that
Yeah.
was, to me, somewhat revelatory. And now I see it all the time, that
Right.
in every episode. And it's so easy to get these people to see themselves in the other person, no matter how much of an enemy they are. They are seeking the same basic thing in their life, even through their politics. Like their
Right.
politics is really just an extension. And this I knew, this I designed as
Right.
I was designing the show, that once I took them into what the deepest experiences were, now we can get into politics. They're no longer on the defensive, but also we can see now why their politics matters to them, because
Mm-hmm.
it's all designed to
Right.
protect this most important experience and to not experience that terrible tragedy again.
Absolutely. All right, two things. One, even though Afeni is younger than Kevin and does not have children, and Kevin is a proud father of two ginormously strong football players, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Um, because of her life experience, the way he talked about his kids and the love that he had for his kids, you could see that compassion and empathy in her eye. She could feel that, whether it's because she wanted that, she needed that, she didn't get that, she respects it. So that one I thought was, even she had so much compassion and empathy, even without that own experience, she really joined. And the second thing is with Holly and Dakota on gun rights. To your point, they do what they do for the exact same thing. Like, right, like Holly, right, the exact same
This one was
purpose.
off the charts in terms of that similarity.
Yeah,
It was almost weird to me. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, both protecting their people, their family, their community. Both have had horrific tragedies in their lives related.
Both of them don't want people to be killed.
Period.
One of them carries a gun, and one of them says nobody should have a gun.
Right.
And both of them, like, were basically trying to save their brothers from being shot when they were kids, One of them actually witnessed their brother being shot in the head. The
Yeah.
other one's father was shot in the chest, in the back. I mean, it was just incredible. They had the exact same motivations. It's so clear. And then their lives went like this. It
Mm-hmm.
was incredible.
Mm-hmm. I was looking forward to talking to you about that one in contrast to, so for everyone, start with Kevin. I mean, there's so many. The last one, Kevin and Feeney. Like, if you want to just get locked into this series, that's the one to start. Like,
That one and the trans one is
and the
like,
trans, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're in. You will be in, right? You and the second to last one, with at the time of this recording of Holly and Dakota. It was different. It
Yeah.
was different, and I watched, when I was preparing, I watched Kevin and Feeney first, right? So I got the, like, the juices going, like, for that one, and then I backed in to the other one, and it was like different vibe, different experience.
So for your audience,
Yes.
in all of these episodes, they're on a continuum in terms of how much the people are connected at the end. They all start out with some level of discord. At the end, it varies from people saying "I love you" to each other and hugging to "That was very good to meet you. Thank you."
Right.
And I had never really had the "That's very good to meet you. Thank you" on these episodes. But that's what happened in the Guns episode, despite that these women had amazingly powerful lives.
Mhm.
And it was surprising to me.
Mhm.
It's an outlier in terms of our episodes, but it spoke pretty loudly to me about the challenges, and that's what you're probably going to right now.
Yeah, the challenges and it, the differences, because when you produced the show, your commentary, often by slides or words, were like, at you weren't sure, you didn't see something as it was unfolding, even though you're right there for the whole day with them. And as you were looking at the film and looking at the film, and I know from a prior conversation, you spent a lot of time with the film.
Yeah.
Um, what so what did you see, right? These are all learning opportunities. What was different? And I guess my question for you is, if you would have seen this thing which you're going to tell us that you saw, would you have would your approach been different?
So I'm gonna, like, to some extent ruin the episode, but it's still worthwhile seeing because these women's stories are so incredibly powerful, and there's a lot to learn from their interaction. But basically, what happens is Dakota, who is the guns rights advocate, really tries very hard to. Well, they share their personal history, and Dakota feels a lot of empathy for Holly. Holly, the woman who watched her brother get shot in the head, was holding him when they were little. He's yet saying, "I don't want to die," and she has gone on, Holly, to help tons of people whose kids have been killed by gun in mass shootings, um, heal. So Holly is just, given to people in a way that is almost unimaginable, like going back into that burning house over and over again. So Dakota feels a lot of empathy for Holly because they've been through something together. It's very similar when they were kids. Holly, and these are all meant to bring these people closer, to relax their defenses. Holly somehow does not feel that for Dakota. When I say you guys are so similar, Holly's like, really? And it's like, yeah, obviously. And she's like, I don't. And then I ask them after, this incredible sharing of what they've been through, how are you feeling about the other person? And Dakota says, I'm feeling a lot of empathy, really.
Right.
Wow. And Holly says, I don't think you're a terrible person.
Right. Right.
And for me, that was like, okay, something's going on here. And I'm still trying to bring them together.
Mm-hmm.
What I understood later was that, or this is my theory. I did speak to Holly and I did speak to Dakota, and Holly was not trusting Dakota. She really didn't believe that Dakota was interested in human life.
Hmm.
She just didn't believe it. And you can't, and I really, you can't blame anyone for what they think. It's not, they don't think it, it thinks of itself. But also, given Holly's past, like, how can anyone fault that. She's been through so much trauma, and she
Right.
believes, what happens is, and I'm going to talk about some psychological theory, which I generally don't, but I think your audience may be interested in it. When we are under threat, empathy in the brain shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
So if I threaten you, you're not going to feel for me. That's really adaptive so that you can kill me. If you
Right.
felt empathy for the person who was attacking you,
That wouldn't work.
not good.
No.
So that's really adaptive. But what happens when we no longer feel empathy is that we can't actually understand the motivations of the other person. The way we understand motivations is we just unconsciously, not a cognitive intellectual process, we just feel what they're feeling. You tell someone about your past, and they see your face, and they're like, "Oh yeah, wow, that's incredible." They just feel it. When you're under threat because empathy has shut down for a specific purpose to protect you, you can't even understand why they're doing what they're doing. It's just they become a black box to you. And you can probably feel that when you think about politically who's your enemy. You can't even understand. You're like, what's wrong with those people? They're just evil. Like, what is actually wrong with them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those 100 million people, what is wrong with them? And that's because empathy has shut down in you. You can't get inside of them.
Right.
So, and I'll talk about what the solution is later. But Holly could not get inside of Dakota, and as a result, she can't even understand how Dakota might be trying to save human life.
Right.
What happens when we don't feel for people anymore is we come up with several theories, and I saw this in 20 years of mediation. Like, these are my own theories, by the way. So people take it with a grain of salt.
Yes.
But I have confirmed a lot of this through piecing together research. And when people don't understand the other person, they come up with varying reasons, and this I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of times why you're doing what you're doing. First, if you're hurting me despite knowing that it hurts me, we're married and you're hurting me, you must be intending to hurt me. But that's obviously not the case. You might not take out the garbage because you're exhausted. But I'll conclude after a while that you're intending to hurt me. You know how important clean house is to me. You must be doing it because you want to hurt me. That's number one. We think that the other person intended the effect. We confuse intent, like basically cause and effect.
Right.
And we say, you intended the effect on me. The second is that people will consistently believe not only that you want to hurt me, you want to control me. Like, somehow that's your ultimate objective. Not that you want to control me because you want a clean house or because you grew up in a sloppy environment and it reminds you of chaos. It's because you actually have the desire to control me. That's your motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get inside of you, so I'm going to come up with this crazy theory that you want to hurt me, you want to control me. These aren't your motivations, but this is what consistently happens. And the third thing that happens, which is even more off the charts, but it's completely common, is that I say, what's your motivation? You're crazy. You're evil.
Mm-hmm.
As if those are motivations. Like, those aren't motivations. Even crazy and evil people are trying to get something.
Right.
But
Right.
crazy and evil basically says there's no reason.
Right.
You're just totally messed up. And so Holly cannot
Right.
consider what's really going on inside Dakota. She can't feel it,
Mm-hmm.
can't believe it. It's completely common. And my process is designed to restart the empathy engine so she can really see what's inside of Dakota, but she can't see it.
No.
And after a while, Dakota is like, I've been trying for so long. I'm
Right.
not going to try anymore.
So let me tell you what I saw. And so it's fascinating to me because this is coming from someone who has spent a professional career and probably longer than that, observing people, working with people, working hard to understand people. So what I saw, which just shows how much we don't know, what I saw was Holly softening, like throughout the progression. She started strong, but softening, empathy. Um, I could. I felt that I could feel her empathy for Dakota as it went on, even towards the end.
Well, definitely toward the end. Yeah.
Yes. Conversely, I felt that Dakota was more guarded, lack of a better word. Like she was more guarded. I could see her empathy and I
Ah,
could see her movement, but when I was observing it, it was like she was more guarded. And so
yes.
it's interesting the outcome doesn't always right. It just shows how much we can't get inside behind the facial features, behind the skin to
Yeah.
really understand
Yeah.
where someone is at.
Yeah. It is very hard. And what ultimately happened is that Dakota in this later section really did a good job, and Holly ended up feeling deeply understood. And then
Right.
she is the one who feels like a lot of empathy, and Dakota's like, I don't. Yeah, it was very nice to meet you. Went super cordial, but and but I agree with you that it's hard to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holly is a much, I think, easier person to read than Dakota. She's much more out there. Like she'll say, "You're killing kids," and
Right.
Dakota will say, "I hear you."
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Dakota has told me that one of her protective mechanisms is to go businesslike.
Mm,
That's what she does when she faces conflict,
right.
and you could see that happening here.
For sure. For sure.
And it became, it was harder for me to read them than generally, because usually people just melt into the process and get
Yeah.
vulnerable and authentic.
Right. Right. Okay. Before we go to moving along in this process and how the change happens, you made a comment of the three things. Actually, this might be two comments. One is this sounds so obvious, but when you said, 100, what's wrong? What's wrong with those people? They're nuts. And then when you said, yeah, those 100 million people are nuts. We don't have any epidemiological studies that show disease and disorder with 100 million people. Like, so these are people, right? These are people who have this view, and the other 100 million, which we seem to be kind of even on a lot of things in this country, think something totally different. So either nothing's wrong with anyone, or something's wrong with everyone. And the bottom line is, how do we get to humanity? And which is where you're taking us. The other thing I want to say, you made a comment which made me think of your TEDx 2017 talk at the end when you did tell the story, and you told the story of Frank and Sophia, divorce mediation, and Sophia had cheated on Frank, and Sophia lost her prized possession, which she believed Frank stole, a picture of, I think it was her grandmother or her,
Yeah.
so the most important person in her life,
A
and
picture her
related.
grandmother painted of her mother, I believe it
Right,
was.
right, yes. Um, and she's accusing Frank of this,
Of stealing
and
it.
for stealing it, right? Stealing it, and Frank has that look of, like you said, like that look in his eyes, like that ice look. And when he got down to it, what Frank said is not what we would expect him to say. Like, yeah, I want you to hurt as much as you hurt me. It was, she was the only thing I had too. He's an orphan. Like, that's all I had. So yes, he took it, but for an entirely different reason and no intention of hurting. And that is like,
Right.
that really sets up this, how do we get to finding the underlying motivation, the underlying need that we all have to move people together.
Yeah. So, it becomes even more problematic politically, because we have, in personal relationships, at least we have this kind of motivation, at least at the start, to understand each other, because we want to live like in peace with this person we're friends with, or his family member, spouse. Like, we're at least we're going to try for a little while. In politics, we actually have professionals who are driving us apart. Like, that's their job, to divide us. It wasn't always, we used to have people who, as politicians, tried to unite us, but that's not the case presently. And I call these people enemy makers. And and the way I define an enemy, the enemy makers are in politics and they're in media mostly. And the way I define it is, if they wouldn't exist, if their job wouldn't exist, if they didn't have an enemy, if their popularity didn't exist, if they didn't have an enemy, most likely they're an enemy maker. They're trying to create an enemy. They understand the incentive structure. And you can think of who you will, who's an enemy maker in our society, but what these people are doing is intentionally triggering what I talked about before, which is threat. If you trigger threat, you shut down your people empathy on your own side, and you can convince them that the other side is evil. So you have to create threat perception. It's the big lie. And the way you create threat perception is this one huge lie, which is that the other side has dark heart, basically. They're bad people. They are really evil. If you can get your side to believe that, they will authorize you to do anything, because we will all do anything necessary to defeat evil. I mean, think about what you do to defeat Hitler, to kill Hitler. Would you break democratic norms? Yes. Would you shoot him in the head? Probably. Would you sacrifice, all these people over here to do 50 people over here? Yeah. Right? Like, you do anything to defeat evil. Anything. Nothing else matters. And so that's their job. And when you convince people that there's someone who's evil, they will invest their support in you. And they will let you basically do anything. So if you're particularly a corrupt person, this is your path to power. The people who we least trust in normal society, who we might even consider to be sociopaths, who don't care about other people, these are the people we'll most trust when we believe the other side is evil. Because they are the people who are willing to do what's necessary to kill the other side, to defeat them. So if you want to understand, if you're on the left and you want to understand what the hell is wrong with all these people who are following Donald Trump, if that's your belief, understand the primary cause is that they believe you're evil. It's not that they're evil. They believe you're evil. They've been convinced of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've explained this to a lot of clients when they're in conflict with the other person, that the other person can't understand your motivations, and they believe at this point that you want to hurt them. This is neurological. This is physiological once they're under threat. This is where they're going to. And then in politics, we've been stoked and fed this message. There's nothing they can do about that. They didn't choose that thought. They've been fed it. And so if you want to hate them for that, go ahead. But that's not going to unravel that thought of theirs. It's going to further that thought of theirs if you're going to be screaming names at them.
Right. Well, screaming names, and as we saw on the show, and even screaming data. Like more data, more evidence, more any of this more is just putting more stuff on the stoking the fire, as you said.
Right. And so my basic tool, my goal, by the way, is to disempower enemy makers. They are draining our society of goodwill. They will not allow us to cooperate. And we will never solve an issue in society, and we will break. So to disempower enemy makers. And the main tool that I'm using is to show the big lie, which is that ordinary people on the other side are evil.
Mm-hmm.
I show it over and over again in every episode.
Right.
That people think that this other person is going to be like this real evil, dark-hearted, really sinister person. And they find, like, even the person that is their opposite, like, holy cow, I really like you. Mm-hmm. Would you be my friend?
Yeah.
Like, I was totally wrong. And it doesn't mean that their views necessarily change. So in the trans episode, which is unbelievably powerful, and I'm not going to go through it all, the person who is anti-trans at the end doesn't believe that trans people should be around kids still. But her vitriol level, her hate, went from a 10 to a 6. I mean, it's really like dramatic, maybe even to a 2 at times. Like, she loves the other person. But at least if you're at a 6, you can be in society together, and you're not going to choose a politician who's going to destroy the other side.
Right.
So that's my hope, is to show this over and over again with every single conflict. There's virtually no exception that people think they're doing a good thing. Exceptions are there are occasionally people in society that are born without really the desire, or who are brought up in a way that they really no longer have the desire to care for anyone. They can't
Right.
trust anyone. And they're only in it for themselves. It's extremely rare. Like I can't tell you how many clients have been told by their therapist the other person is a narcissist sociopath. And I find in the mediation, that's not true. Like
Right.
they love people.
Right.
They really do love people. You're not seeing it. They're not loving you. They see you as the enemy. But those people are narcissists, sociopaths, whatever you want to call it. And you're an expert on this. I'm not. But in my experience, they are like people born without the part of the brain that loves to care for other people. Those people are so much the exception. And so it's almost like we can ignore those people. They do lead movements. They are very often enemy makers. But the rest of us, well, they're trying to convince us that we should hate the ordinary people on the other side. And guess what? We're all being manipulated for their power on both sides. And we're all sick of it. And none of us know how to exit. So I'm trying to help us exit.
You are. You are. And what you have seen in your career and now in these powerful episodes is whether people are convinced and are hugging each other and want to be friends for life, or they're being cordial and they go from a 10 to a 6. People are moving. Through this process, people are moving. People are listening. People are being heard. They're being, like, within a few hours, they're being heard and listened to by someone that I'm guessing, would have bet their life that they would not be able to have even a iota of that experience with.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so there is movement, and you're showing this to the world. There's other programs that are popping up as a result of your project to try to, like, how do we bring this to the world? How do we bring this to the newer generations, right? Like exposing the lie. We all need each other, and we are at a pivotal point in our human history right now, a pivotal point. And these are the skills, these are the conversations, and these are the awarenesses and pulling back the curtain that we need now more than ever.
Well said. I'd like to write that all down.
Well, I can't say it again, but I think it's being recorded. So, Larry, thank you. The work is really I kept using the word to you in the email, like powerful. It's powerful, everyone. Like it's just really powerful, and it's really meaningful. And you do get entertained. So there's that comes out of it, and it's entertainment with an impact. So say a little more about, like, what's to come. I know you have a vision, and so say whatever you're comfortable saying.
Yeah. So I'd say that there are kind of three phases to this as I'm envisioning it. The first phase is to create this YouTube channel that a lot of people see and are affected by. The second phase is really to educate for people who are interested in it, and for people who aren't, to really, there's a lot of calls for us to provide educational materials, but really I want to be more affirmative than that. We are trying to develop relationships so that this will be in every high school, that they'll watch 2 episodes, 3 episodes, and that they will go through exercises where they see themselves the difference between trying to convince someone of something and listen to them. Listening to somebody is the fastest path to the other person's transformation. And people see that, like, oh my gosh, I can just see it. Like, if I listen to you, you move toward me. Really getting that into people's muscle memory. So we're to try to train everybody throughout the United States in this kind of engagement in high school and in college and political science classes. So really making an effort for that. And then I'd say that's stage 2 that has begun a little bit. And step 3 is activation. Like, there are a lot of people who've watched these. It's not like we don't have millions of followers yet. We have maybe 170,000 followers on different platforms. but ultimately, but the people who do follow us and who have engaged with this are apparently really loyal. Like, you know, like 75% of them open the newsletter if they've subscribed to the newsletter.
That's a big
That's like
number.
a 10
That's a big,
times
yeah,
multiple
yeah,
of typical. You know,
yeah.
the number of people who comment and who engage with the material, the number of our subscribers who actually watch the new episodes is something like 60%. It's just off the charts how passionate people are, and we want to activate those people. And activation means them forming networks where they go out and show people what they can do. So we're starting at what's called an I'm Listening project, where staunch Democrats go out and set up a shop at a, you know, in front of a coffee shop, and they set up a couple of chairs, and they actually say, I'm blue, you're red, I'm listening, teach me. And we give them some skills. And there are other ways that we're trying to activate these people, but ultimately it's to have a political impact.
Yes.
That's the ultimate. And then there's this other, you know, when we doing these episodes, we get seen by maybe tens of thousands on some episodes, millions on other episodes. The goal for me is to do episodes that are seen by 50 million people each, that have a political impact. Because right now, even though it's powerful for some people, it's a blip. It's a little ripple in the ocean of this craziness that we're all experiencing, which is hating other people and being divided and vitriol. And my hope is that we can bring well-known people where 50 million people will watch, like Mark Ruffalo and Mel Gibson. 50 million people, 30 million people would watch that and have a discussion. And my belief is that these two guys would come to the same conclusion that almost everyone else has, that we've been manipulated, that we are the same, that we want the same things in the world. How are we being driven apart? I want to demonstrate that over and over with a tidal wave. And it turns out, yesterday I was talking to somebody who actually knows Mark Ruffalo. You know, like for me, this is just all like, this is what I want to
All
do.
right, everyone. Who knows Mel Gibson? All right, let's do it. Let's get it together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So all
yeah,
those things to really actually have an impact. That's the goal.
yeah. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
You are having an impact, and I know you want it to be larger. You are having an impact,
Thank you.
and it will
Appreciate
be larger. Okay, so tell everyone where to go to find the project, the episodes, and also if they're interested in more of what you've talked about as well.
Yeah. So to find the episodes, it's the Enemies Project on YouTube. We also have social media, mostly on Instagram. I think we have close to 100,000 subscribers on Instagram, and we put out short stuff, so you can go there. But to see the full episodes, it's YouTube, the Enemies Project, and our website is how you sign up for our newsletter, and we will get educational materials, and there will be a lot of resources on the website. So that's how you, and then you can make a contribution if you'd like, because this is me funding this. There's no money in this. It's just like me giving myself at this point, which I'm hoping people will help me.
Yeah, we're going to put that out there too. We're going to manifest that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, yeah, there's something on the other side that way. Well, Larry, thank you. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you for having me on. I just want to say that the way we're connected is through a friend of mine,
Yeah,
and she just suggested we speak. And
yes,
she's been a friend of yours for a lot longer than a friend of mine.
yes,
Mine like 10 years,
yeah,
15 years.
yeah.
But we didn't know each other, and she suggested we talk, and we had a great talk. And
We did.
before this
Appreciate it.
conversation, and I
Yes,
really appreciated that.
Jean-Marie, thank you. As you heard, Larry is on a mission. He is driven. He wants to leave this world better for his kids and all of us, as he uses his skills of conflict resolution and helping people to ultimately come together through deep understanding. There is a lot in here for all of us to think about in our own lives. and as we come across people day to day with different beliefs than our own. Here are 5 key takeaways from this conversation. Number 1, understanding doesn't require agreement, but it does require safety. People don't change when they're attacked. They change when they feel understood. Number 2, the real crisis in our society isn't disagreement, it's threat perception. When we feel threatened, empathy shuts down and the other side becomes unknowable. Number 3, most people on opposing sides share the same core motivations: protection, belonging, safety, dignity. Our differences are about strategy, not necessarily values. Number 4, enemy making is a business model, and we're all being sold the lie. When leaders and media profit from division, cooperation becomes impossible. And number 5, listening is not passive, it's transformational. Deep listening isn't weakness, it's the fastest path to movement, de-escalation, and change. Well, everyone, there is a lot in this show for us to consider, for us to think about how we think about others, to think about others as people who have similar motivations, even if they go about them in different ways, thinking about what they think of us and what we believe and how we act. And as Larry points out, division is going to keep getting us farther and farther and farther apart. And we need to find ways to come together for ourselves, for our children, and for our future generations. We are interested in what you think about this episode. So please feel free to leave us a comment at Dr. Dan Peters on Instagram or reply to any of our social posts. Please share the show with anyone and everyone you think will benefit. Thank you for being a part of our amazing community, for subscribing, and for your 5-star reviews. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. This has been a Peters and Rossi production. Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan is produced by Laura Rossi. Our engineer is Phil Rossi. Theme music is Uplifting Folk by Awesome Music. Artwork by Kelly Dwyer. Follow us on social media at Dr. Dan Peters. For more information, visit drdanpeters.com.